Hey y'all, it's Sarah. I have a quick Christmas project. I saw this little plastic, they call it a bucket. It's a little plastic bin from Dollar Tree that had this kind of Merry Christmas. You can see I've already been testing it out to see if that was removable. I'm going to be turning into kind of a little holder for one of these Dollar Tree Christmas trees. And probably a few other things inside of it. I haven't decided what else I'm going to add in it to decorate it, but I didn't want to have something to hold one of these kind of smaller trees. So what I've got is this little bucket. I've got some of the Dollar Tree incense burner holders. I've already tucked a little bit of the Dollar Tree spackling down in my little holes. If you don't want to make this far of an investment, you can always use some of these really big popsicle stick tongue depressor things from Walmart and just cut one end off and kind of get the same similar shape. The length is really nice for this, but I'm actually going to use these for my own. Either which way works. I wanted to show you both options. I've got a couple, I'm going to be using a couple of these wood cubes to go with this, and the only other thing that you really kind of need is I am using 100% acetone nail polish remover, and that's what started removing this. And I want to go ahead and jump into that because I'm going to be spray painting this, and you can pretty much do whatever color you wanted to, and if you wanted to keep it what it looks like, if that works with your decor. I wasn't real thrilled with the plastic look. I'm going to make mine look like galvanized metal. So I'm going to be spray painting it with a very cheap silver metallic spray paint. And I'm going to kind of go from there, and I'm winging it. I know what I have in mind, but I'm going to let it tell me how it wants to look when I get to the finished product. So to get this to come off, I tried using a scraper, a razor blade scraper. It didn't really do anything, but you can see how easy. I want to say, and I don't know if this is just me, if I just got a bad batch, I got some of the Dollar Tree nail polish remover that says it's acetone, that it's 100% acetone. But I'm going to be honest with you, I've used it a couple times on some things that it did not work out. So if you're using that and you can't get it to come off, maybe you got a bad batch of acetone. I don't know. I've had one batch be really difficult and it didn't work this way. This one seems to do okay, but I think it just kind of, quality kind of matters on that. So this one has worked out really well. You can see how that wiped it pretty much clean. I'm going to clean this off with some alcohol to make sure all the oils are off of it because it is plastic and sometimes it's hard to get paint to stick to plastic. I suggest starting, no matter what color you want to go, if you wanted to do this in the wood tones that I've shown you guys, you could start with white spray paint because that really gives you a good base to get other paints to stick. Start with a white spray paint, then go over with a white chalk paint because that helps. It gives it an absorbable, porous texture. The chalk paint soaks in the paints that we use normally to get that wood grain look. And that absorption is what helps give that wood grain. So you kind of want to do the spray paint base coat first, just to get something to make your paint really stick. And then go over it with chalk paint. Give it time to cure. I would give it a couple days, especially on plastic. And then go in and do your faux wood look. However, I kind of wanted the gray metal tones. I'm going to keep some wood look to it. I'm going to restain these to a darker color along with these. So that's the direction I'm going. But I wanted to give you a couple of ideas because that's more kind of what I like to do. Rather than to say, hey, you should do this particular craft. I'd rather give you some ideas that you can run with. And I'm just spraying some Dollar Tree Awesome on there to get that white residue that was left kind of across that surface. I'll go back in with some alcohol to remove any fingerprint oils. And I'm going to go ahead and go spray paint this. Get a couple coats on it. get it nice and dry, and then we'll get started on putting it together. Okay guys, I have got my little sled nice and spray painted. It's pretty much mostly dry. I got a little impatient, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into getting a little paint on this thing and adding our other little pieces. So I'm going to give this a moment to dry just a hair more. I've got some paints out really quick, and I wanted to show you what all I grabbed. So my paints are well loved. I have got burnt umber right here. I've got burnt orange and brick red. So basically anything in a dark brown range, and kind of an orangey range, and kind of a maroon range. And I may not even use all these colors to do my little rust finish on here. I may keep it a little simpler than that, but I wanted to have those out in case I decided I wanted to go a little deeper into that. I have a couple other things. So I have my mix that I use for the faux wood. This is a little bit of Waverly wax and antique, a hair of ink, and then a little bit of clear. And for those of you that are not familiar, these are kind of my favorite 3 paints these days, and I use them for a whole lot of things. I keep this mix ready-made. It's a very dark, deep brown, and that's what I'm going to use to kind of stain my little wood pieces. If you notice, I've got my ink color and my clear, and I'm going to use that towards my kind of aged metal look. A couple other things that I have is just the little Dollar Tree dauber sponge. That's what I'm going to be using to add my faux rust to this. And let me bust into some things. So I'm thinking I'm going to need at least 4 of these little blocks. I'm going to go ahead and pop these guys out. And if you need to, I noticed that mine has a few rough spots. If you need to, I went ahead and kind of did the end of this while it was still in the package. I sanded a little of that down. It had a little bit of roughness. It was no big deal, but I just went ahead and sanded that down a little bit. So I'm going to come in with just my little kitchen sponge that I like to use, and I'm going to slide this out of my way. And I'm not altering the color of this too majorly. I just want to kind of tone down a little of the orange wood tones. And it looks like I may need to run a sanding block over that just a hair, just to rough up that surface. Just a little bit. You can see it doesn't take much. I kind of noticed that when I sanded down these ends, that it didn't take much to sand off that paint. I try not to do too much of this on camera. One of my kids cringes every time he hears this sanding sound. So I'm going to continue to sand these down just a second. Okay, I got a little excited and I forgot to turn the camera back on when I started painting after I sanded. But you can kind of see where I am. I've got one layer on here. I love the different tones that ended up adding with that little bit of orangey red showing through. And then my mix, it's got this very rustic aged out wood look, which I really love, with the idea of this rusted out galvanized aged sled or sleigh, or I guess it's a sleigh. I'm not really sure how that is designated. I think it's a sleigh. So really quick before I jump any further, I wanted to show you guys this little mat that I've got underneath me. Because I'm in love. Especially since I play with a lot of paint and hot glue. I'm going to show you this thing. This may only be good for Texas people. I don't know. Other states may have a store that is similar. This is a 6-pack of 12 by 15 inch disposable cutting boards. This thing is absolutely amazing. The paint can dry on here. And most of this paint is dry now. And I'm just taking a dry paper towel. I want you to watch that. Nothing wants to stick to this. Paint, hot glue, all of it just peels off. This is almost like it's almost like a wax-like surface. It was $2.77 for this 6-pack of these things. And honest to goodness, it was worth every single penny of that. See how clean that got just from a dry paper towel. I wanted to throw that out there. It is nothing relevant to this craft, but I wanted to share my excitement on that. So these little things, I'm pretty happy with that color. I'm going to try to get something similar on my little blocks here, if I can. And I'm just taking the same sponge. I haven't even reloaded it. This is why my hands always look like they do. I know some of you guys are devoted glove users. I just, I like to feel what I'm doing. I'm not afraid of getting my hands messy. That may be a Southern thing, which I find humorous since I'm so picky about everything else. So I'm not doing tops and bottoms of these blocks just because I think it'll probably be easier to glue having that top and bottom less painted. I did end up painting my entire surface of my little sled legs. I don't know what those would be called. I used those last year to make some larger size ornaments for my big tree. Just an FYI, and I'm going to throw this out here really quick. When you do them like this, put a little greenery in the center, a couple of skewers, and glue these together. They really look like a set of skis. And these things are, they're a pretty good size. It looks like they're probably about 10 or 11 inches. So this made for a really nice size ornament, by the way. All right, I feel like I need a little more paint on a couple of these, and I can always go in with a brush and touch that up. I'm just in a hurry. I'm really excited about putting this together. I tend to like making miniatures of things. So this is going to turn into a small sled or sleigh. I like miniatures. I don't know why. I just like tiny versions of things. So that's a kind of a weird quirk that I have. The next thing I'm going to do, and this makes it really easy. If you look at this bottom portion here, it's going to make it really easy to kind of get these evenly spaced out. You just kind of go right there to the very corners of that. I'm using hot glue. Obviously, you might want to use a more permanent glue. Hot glue is faster, especially while I'm videoing. And I try not to be very abusive to my pieces. I don't do a lot of like craziness to my decor pieces after I make them. So hot glue typically works fine for me. I don't know why I glue both sides of that right off the bat, but... And I'm just going to glue all these little legs right up against this kind of little square indentation of this piece. Super cute already. You can see where it's going. I like the dark wood against the metal. So my next step is going to just try to kind of see where I want this to go. And honestly, this right here, where this little kind of cutout part of this really allows me to see where I want to align these. I'm just going to take a straight edge here. Kind of make sure that these are in alignment. And then I'm going to glue this part on. Put quite a bit there. I tend to try to put quite a bit of glue right in the center of small things. That way when I push it down and squish it down, the glue squishes down, but it doesn't necessarily squish out. So I'm just going to try to get this aligned. And I'm in a weird position at the moment trying to do this. And I feel like I waited a little too long to get my glue on this guy. I did. I waited just a hair too long. And I may have to fill in this little indentation. While it helps me align it, it definitely keeps me from being flush. So let me try it this way, because I need to feel kind of that hole there enough to get adhesion all the way down through it. So I'm going to try from this direction instead. Hopefully you guys can see me. There we go. I wanted to get it kind of in that little, I guess it's the little spot that the incense rests. You can see I've got a decent blob of glue. I'm hoping that I don't smush it out. By the way, quick tip, if you do get your glue smushing out, if you take your, oops, I missed a spot on the bottom of this guy. If you take your heat gun or blow dryer and kind of warm that back up, and I usually use the little Dollar Tree, this little thing. It's one of the Dollar Tree blades, and it's got this flat blade. I usually use that and kind of wipe it across where I might have any glue seepage, and while I'm heating it up with my heat gun or blow dryer, and just scrape that right back off. So you can kind of see where that goes. Pretty cute already. I think so. You can say it's ugly. It's okay. I don't get my feelings hurt too much on that part, as long as it's giving you some ideas. So now it's just going in and throwing some paint on here. And I'm just going to take this dauber and hit a few spots. And I actually like to start with black when I'm going to do a rust look. I like to start with black and then layer my colors over that. And I'm not going to do a whole lot here. I'm mostly, I kind of wanted to dress up those edges a little bit. Give them a little more depth. I really could go all the way across this little portion here if I wanted to and rust that whole little section up. But I think I'm just going to hit the edges to kind of make those stand out. And if you haven't seen some of my videos on doing rust, I'm going pretty basic on this one, but there are some that give you really detailed versions of rust. And I try to explain what it is we're mimicking, like the white edges that you get around rust. Those are the different mineral deposits that you would expect to see when the metals break down, so that you can truly replicate that. And maybe more information than most people want to know, but it does kind of give you an idea how to get more realism out of it. I like doing it with these flat sponges when I'm getting started. Something like this, or the Dollar Tree little makeup wedge sponge. I like using those. So while that's drying so that I can layer my other colors on, in order to just take away, I'm not going to do the full-on galvanized look. I'm really just going to go with an aged metal. I find this to be a much faster method of getting a metal look so that it's not just looking like it's spray painted. So I'm just using the same sponge. I'm going to get a little bit of black here. And I'm going to come in with a little bit of my clear. I've got a whole mess going on here. I've been playing with so many things today. So I'm going to try to do this without hitting up there. And and allow that section to dry. So I'm just kind of swirling this on. And there's still, honestly, some brown mixed in with that, too. And that's going to be fine also. So I'm swirling this on almost like polished metal would be. As it ages, that polished metal tends to collect dirt and grime and grunge. So you can do this a couple of ways. You can take a paper towel and rub it off. Take a cleaner sponge and rub that off. I'm trying to do it this way so you can just kind of see that I'm doing this pattern at random. But I do tend to go with this round kind of version rather than back and forth and across. And that's kind of a personal choice on which metal you're trying to accomplish. I'm just going to take this paper towel that I used to clean my little mat off with. Oh! This is why I said you might want to use permanent glue. You know what? I have considered editing out when there are oopses. However, the reality is that we all kind of run into those as we're crafting. If you don't, high five to you because you're pretty awesome. But I feel like it would be almost fake of me if I tried to pretend like I never had any mistakes pop up while I'm crafting. So, in order to save myself headache, I'm going to do that last. So, same thing all the way around. I'm just going to go in and continue kind of this grungy metal look. The galvanized, I like that look, you know, where you layer the grays and the whites to get that galvanized look. But I have a lot of real galvanized pieces. I like to mix the kind of different types of metals where it's not all the same. This gives me a really grungy, aged, old, like I pulled it out of a barn that's been stored somewhere. And there we go. That just makes it easier anyway, guys. I'm going to giggle to myself and continue on. And I'll go back and re-glue those. And I may actually pull out my E6000 and try to go back and do that. It might be a better idea. Part of that problem, though, is I did not let my paints dry well enough. I don't have patience all the time on my paints. So you can see how the texture in that spray paint picks up all of this. And it really does look like old, dirty metal. Okay, let's not keep the fingerprints. But maybe you can see how that kind of leans towards a real grungy look. Gonna leave it a little streaky. Can you see how that kind of appears? And that's personal choice. If you want to go in with the galvanized look, you do you. It'll still work. I think the concept of this is what's cute. So now that that's all on there, now that I've broken my legs off, I can go in and do my rust. So I tend to go from darker to the lighter color, which means this darker brown, whatever darker brown you choose, kind of goes over that black. And I'm just sponging it on there. I'm not even going to switch sponges. I'm going to come in with this little bit of red tones. Might have got a little much on there. Normally, I try to wait a little bit of time in between each layer so that that layer itself dries individually and the colors don't tend to blend out to be one color. You get that tone on tone on tone of those different rust color varieties. And you can kind of see that in there already. And don't be afraid of your oranges when it comes to doing rust. Don't be afraid of your brighter oranges, because the newer the rust is, the brighter it tends to be. And as you layer it on these darker colors, even your brighter oranges, including the really bright pumpkin color that Waverly Chalk has in their orange, it tones down as it dries on these darker shades. So don't be afraid of those. And you can kind of see what I mean there, that little bit of bright orange. Really, let's see if I can get it really close. Extreme close-up, guys. That little bit of bright orange doesn't have to be scary. You will see that in real rust. So I'm just going to go along. You do this part until your little heart is content. Sometimes I like really heavy rust. If you've seen my windmill and some of those pieces, they are heavily, heavily rusted. This one, I just really wanted to set those edges apart. I could also go down this side, along this side, if I wanted to. A lot of times I will drop down on edges and add a little heavier along edges and lines that would typically be the seam of where metal joins, because that's where moisture tends to build up and you see more actual rust. So think about when you've had something rust out on you, where it kind of drips from, where the water would drip from on it and cause that rust to be. So that's probably about as far as I'm going to go with that. Now I can go back and put my legs on and do that the proper way with a little more patience. Maybe. We'll see how that goes. The last thing that I'm going to show you is that this little tree, and I'm not going to put this together, but you will see it in the final picture. Because guys, I'm a crafter. I'm not really a YouTuber. I'm just a crafter that found some crafty friends online to craft with. So this little tree, you can see, is absolutely going to be an adorable scale for this. I have not decided if I want to glue in just a piece of floral foam, because you can pop this off, stick it down on the floral foam, have it come straight up, or if I really want to kind of lean it back like it has been thrown in this sled, and maybe put like a cute little bag of toys. Dollar Tree has so many cute toy miniatures there in their toy department. I thought about maybe adding a toy bag into my sled, possibly some little bells. I just kind of wanted to get the idea to you, and then wherever you go from that, however extreme you want to go. I like to go extra, but I don't necessarily like to show everyone how extra I tend to go. But it gives you a good start. This is so cute to me. Once I get my legs back on, let's focus on that part. It does need its legs back on, but now you can see what it should be had I not had a craft fail. But that's pretty much all I wanted to show on this. I was itching to get this done, and I really do think that I am likely going to put Dollar General, I saw, has some great little gift bags, some small little cloth gift bags that are probably about 6 inches. And they have a pull string on them. They had some really cute buffalo check patterns. And it was $1 for, I think, 2 of these cloth bags. Now that I've gotten this far into it, I think I'm going to run back, get one of those, fill it with some miniature toys that I can find out of the little toy section, possibly, or make my own. And I'm going to tuck that in there with mine and have a finished project. You kind of go with it whichever way you want to. Also, keep in mind, if you don't want to make this a $3 piece, this right here still will work perfectly, and you're probably not going to struggle as much to attach them as I just did. Now I've got to hunt down my good glues and get this back attached. I hope you got a good chuckle out of my crafting fail. And I hope you get a chance to craft without some fails. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.